You know, when you think about spiritualism, ghosts, seances, that kind of thing, you probably don't picture a serious psychologist taking it on. But one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, Carl Jung, actually spent a huge part of his career digging into these very strange phenomena. And what's so fascinating is that he didn't ask if ghosts were real. He asked a much deeper question. Why do we experience them in the first place? So let's explore this incredible crossroads where the supernatural meets the human psyche.
Our story actually kicks off not with Jung, but with a pretty shocking endorsement from one of history's most famously rational thinkers, the philosopher Immanuel Kant. I mean, this is a guy who built his career on logic, and yet he personally vouched for a story of clairvoyance that was so unbelievable it just completely shattered the boundaries of what people thought was possible.
So, what was this incredible story that had a guy like Kant convinced? Well, to find out, we have to go back to the year 1759. All right, so picture this, a dinner party in Gothenburg, Sweden. The guest of honor is a well-known philosopher and mystic, a guy named Emanuel Swedenborg. He's just gotten back from England, and he's at this gathering with about 15 other people. Everything seems totally normal.
And then, around 6 o'clock in the evening, something strange happens. Swedenborg suddenly gets really agitated. He turns pale and tells everyone at the party that a massive fire has just started in Stockholm. Now, what makes this so wild is the distance. Stockholm was over 50 miles away. Back then, there was absolutely no way he could have known that. No phones, no telegraphs, nothing.
For the next couple of hours, he basically becomes a real-time news correspondent for a disaster that nobody else can see. He keeps getting up, walking out of the room, and coming back with these terrifying updates. He reports that one of his friends' houses is already burned to the ground, and now the fire is getting dangerously close to his own home. You can just imagine the tension in that room. Then, at exactly 8 o'clock, his whole mood just flips. He comes back into the room, totally relieved, and joyfully shouts, "Thank God, the fire is out." And he says it was stopped just 3 doors down from his house. Now, of course, this news spread like, well, wildfire all over the city. But the real proof came 2 days later. An official messenger, a royal courier, arrived from Stockholm with news of the fire. And here's the kicker. Every single detail Swedenborg had described, where the fire started, the path it took, and the exact time it was put out, was confirmed to be 100% accurate. So this leaves us with this massive, unavoidable question. How on earth is something like that even possible? Was it some kind of message from another dimension, a spiritual vision, or was it something else entirely? This single event really helped set the stage for a whole century that would become obsessed with trying to answer that very question.
Swedenborg's vision was, without a doubt, a shocker. But it didn't just happen in a vacuum. The culture at the time was really primed for these kinds of mystical ideas, and the 19th century just saw this absolute explosion of interest in ghosts and communicating with the dead.
It all really got going with the Romantic movement's fascination with anything extraordinary. Then, in 1848, the Fox sisters in America kicked off the whole spiritualist movement, claiming they could talk to spirits using a system of knocks. Well, that idea caught on, and soon a table-turning epidemic swept through parlors all across Europe. By the 1870s, you had famous mediums performing these incredible feats like levitation, and they were so convincing that even respected scientists like the physicist William Crookes were believers. Okay, so into this world of dark rooms, seances, and spirits steps Carl Jung. But here's the thing, where everyone else was looking for ghosts and forces from another world, Jung turned his gaze in the complete opposite direction, inward, to the huge unexplored territory of the human mind. So Jung started by looking at things like table turning. And he didn't see spirits at work, he saw psychology. He came up with this idea he called intended tremors. These are the tiny, unconscious muscle movements that our bodies are making all the time, totally linked to our thoughts. So at a seance, you have a whole group of people expecting the table to move. All their tiny individual tremors start to sync up, they get amplified, and pretty soon, the group themselves, completely unconsciously, are the ones moving the very table they think a ghost is moving. And this all connects to a bigger concept, automatic movement. It's kind of like how a hypnotized person might raise their arm without even deciding to. Our unconscious mind can actually carry out some pretty complex physical actions all on its own. It feels like some external force is in control, but the real origin is inside us, coming from a part of our mind that's working without our conscious permission. So this puts two totally different views head to head.
The spiritualist looks at that moving table and sees a ghost trying to send a message. But Jung looks at the exact same event and sees a collective psychological phenomenon. He sees the group's own subconscious hopes and expectations literally taking physical form, creating the very thing they wanted to see. The mystery wasn't on the table, the mystery was inside the people sitting around it. But here's the thing about Jung. He wasn't just some armchair theorist. Oh no. In the summer of 1920, he had a personal encounter with the unexplained that would put his own theories to the ultimate test.
So he and a friend rented this country cottage for their weekends. It was charming, but also suspiciously cheap. And you know when rent is that low, there's always a catch, right? Well, he found out what the catch was pretty quick from the local staff. Everybody knew the house was haunted. Nobody would dare stay there after dark. Over 5 weekends, the activity just got more and more intense. It started with this heavy, oppressive feeling in the air and a weird, sickly smell he couldn't place. The next weekend, he heard this constant dripping sound, but he searched everywhere and couldn't find a leak. Then came these loud rustling and creaking noises like some kind of panicked animal was trapped in the room. And it all built up to this absolutely terrifying climax on the 5th weekend. And this is Jung's own account of what he saw. He said he opened his eyes, and right there on the pillow next to him was the head of an old woman. Half her face was missing, and her one good eye was just glaring at him. He was so freaked out, he literally jumped out of bed and spent the rest of the night wide awake in a chair. He never slept in that room again.
So what does a man of science, a psychologist, do with an experience like that? How do you even begin to process it? Well, it didn't make him believe in ghosts. What it did was confirm his belief in the incredible, profound power of the human psyche.
Which of course brings us right back to the one question everybody wants an answer to after hearing these kinds of stories. Are ghosts actually real? But this is where Jung does something so brilliant. For him, that is fundamentally the wrong question to be asking. He argued that trying to prove or disprove whether spirits physically exist is a total dead end. It completely misses the point of what's really happening. Instead, Jung introduces this powerful idea of a psychic fact. So what does that mean? It means that the vision of the old woman's head was undeniably real as a psychological event. It happened. It had a massive impact on him. Whether or not a literal head was physically in the room was, to Jung, almost irrelevant. The crucial thing, the real piece of data, was the experience itself. So, for Jung, these hauntings, these visions, these premonitions, they aren't proof of an afterlife. What they are powerful, spontaneous eruptions from deep within our own unconscious minds. The ghost isn't in the house. The ghost is in the psyche. It's a projection of our own inner world, all of its unknown parts, onto the world around us.
And this really is the final, crucial insight. For Jung, the purpose of these strange, sometimes terrifying experiences isn't to prove that spirits exist. Their real job is to confront us with a powerful mystery, to completely shatter our neat, rational view of the world and make us realize that there is a vast, unseen and powerful psychic world that exists inside every single one of us.